We do not want to become a country where the party in power is able to use banana republic-like tactics to eliminate its political opponents. Yet I'm sad to say that's exactly where we are. The allegations in this indictment fall flat. It is wrong and incorrect and inaccurate to place blame for what happened on January 6th at the feet of Donald Trump.
Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, who is of course running against Donald Trump in that Republican primary, is going out of his way to defend his primary opponent following news of the latest Trump indictments having to do with Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Now, Ramaswamy is having a bit of a moment. He's noticing a rise in the polls, and it might be because of the fact that people have kind of soured on Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. And I think that his attempt to appeal to the MAGA crowd here by defending Trump is done specifically as part of his electoral strategy. I'm gonna give you more on that in just a second. But first, why don't we take a listen to the rest of that video, and then I'm gonna tell you what Ramaswamy actually had to say about Trump in his book.
I would not have made the same judgments that Donald Trump did in how he handled that day. But that's different from saying that he committed a crime. He did not. He specifically told the protesters that day to behave peacefully. The First Amendment in this country gives political protesters the ability to express themselves and their opinions freely. Donald Trump was not responsible for what happened on January 6th. You want to know what was responsible? I said this in the days after January 6, 2021, just as I say it today. Systematic, pervasive censorship in this country.
Censorship? Censorship. He said censorship. Yeah, it's censorship that persuaded a group of violent MAGA guys to show up at the Capitol and do the riot that they all engaged in. It was censorship that persuaded Trump and the lawyers surrounding him in his campaign to try to implement a slate of faux electors to essentially overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. It was censorship? Look, Vivek Ramaswamy is actually a very smart guy, okay? He's not stupid. He is incredibly accomplished for his age. He's actually the same age as me, 37 years old. He's not dumb. He knows what actually happened that day, and he knows the crimes that Donald Trump was involved in. How do I know? Because he wrote about it in his book. He published a book in 2022 titled Nation of Victims: Identity Politics, the Death of Merit, and the Path Back to Excellence. And in it, he talks about Donald Trump's refusal to engage in a peaceful transition of power. I'm gonna read you a few excerpts. It was a dark day for democracy. The loser of the last election refused to concede the race, claimed that the election was stolen, raised hundreds of millions of dollars from loyal supporters, and is considering running for executive office again. When my candidate lost the election, I was dissatisfied, but I also felt a sense of peace. The election was done, and it was time to move on. No one likes a sore loser. That's one of the worst victimhood complexes of all. Accepting the outcomes of elections and having a peaceful transition of power is part of what it means to be a constitutional republic. Further, he writes, I was especially disappointed when I saw President Trump claim voter fraud. He filed scores of lawsuits over various claims of fraud, as was his right, but they were nowhere close to changing the outcome of a single state, let alone swing states whose results he needed to overturn. I'm almost done. I'll read you one more excerpt from his book here, where he also argues that of the 62 lawsuits he and his supporters filed, he lost all but one, a minor victory in Pennsylvania that affected few votes. The Supreme Court, with a strong conservative majority, ruled against President Trump twice. So what is Ramaswamy up to? I mean, he writes this in his book. He's pretty clear. He sees the situation through a pretty sober lens. But then he goes out of his way, following word of Trump's indictment, to essentially provide cover for Trump and pretend as though Trump did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong. In fact, the riot that ensued was because of the lack of freedom of expression, everyone. That's what it was about. Yeah, what you're seeing there, it must have been because of the New York Post article being censored on Twitter. I'm sure that's what caused it. Which, by the way, after finding out that there was actually a lot of accuracy to that piece, Twitter absolutely should not have censored it, but that's beside the point. The argument that the riot happened because people were frustrated over the inability to express themselves in a country that has a First Amendment and they're allowed to express themselves. I mean, we can't stop listening to what they have to say about the election. It's incessant, it's endless. Whether they want to express it on social media, whether they want to express it through conservative media, it's all over the place. Who is trying to go after their freedom of expression? And if you don't like the censorship on privately owned platforms, well, then let's have a conversation about what we do about that. But the idea that Trump did nothing wrong, which is the point that Vivek Ramaswamy is trying to get to, is insane to me. And he knows it's insane. But this, in my opinion, this is part of his strategy. I believe that he is under the impression that should Trump either drop out of the race because of the fact that he's got mounting legal issues. I mean, he has now been indicted criminally in 3 different cases. He's probably hoping, well, if Trump's gone, I want to make sure I can scoop up that MAGA crowd. Maybe they'll vote for me. And he is experiencing a little bit of a rise in the polls. I mean, he's nowhere near even second place at this point. He's a distant third. But that's what he's doing here. And that's what drives me crazy about where we are as a country, where an individual's personal ambition matters way more than the damage that they are doing to the country. And also the damage they're doing by spreading a false narrative that unfortunately people believe, they buy into. And that kind of disinformation, that kind of propaganda leads to the kind of violence that we saw on January 6th. Riling people up and making them think that this is a gross injustice, when in reality, there is obviously, clearly evidence implicating Trump in what he did here. It's just wrong. And so for those who know what the evidence is and they're spreading the lies because it's either appealing to their audience in conservative media or because they're trying to pander to the MAGA crowd, like, is it really worth it? I don't understand it. I really don't. But this is, in my opinion, what Ramaswamy is up to. And it really is a shame. I mean, this is the guy who wants to raise the voting age from 18 to 25. I mean, he's out there like spouting off about how he wants to make it even more difficult for Americans to vote. I guess that's what his values are. I don't know. But rather than actually finding a way to be appealing to people, giving people hope, expressing how it is that he would be a better candidate than someone like Donald Trump, he's providing the cover, probably secretly hoping that he does end up dropping out of the race so he can benefit from it by appealing to his supporters, Trump supporters specifically. But I would suggest that Trump supporters avoid falling for the garbage, because that's all it is. Read his book. You don't have to read his book. Watch this video, read the excerpts. That's what he really thinks about Trump. And he was right in his book. So ask yourselves, if you happen to be a conservative watching this show right now, a Trump supporter watching this show right now, why would you allow yourself to be lied to, either by Trump or Ramaswamy? And why would you value a single person, Donald Trump, more than what this country is supposed to stand for, and more than our democratic process? It just doesn't make sense to me. Would you want to live under authoritarian rule? Would you want to live under a dictator? Do you want to throw our democratic process out the window? And if you think that you wouldn't be doing that by supporting Trump and what he has done up until this point, you would be mistaken. Please, I'm begging you, get out of that bubble. Try to consume media that has perspectives that differ from your own, because we can't keep going in the direction we're going in. It is not healthy, and I'm worried about where we're gonna end up if we keep going in this direction.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.